Hello and welcome to Tarrasque Me Anything, the only D&D podcast that is subconsciously trying to convince you that the world is flat. My name is Will McAfee, sometimes better known online as the Arcade Wizard, and once again I'm joined by my good friend Ale.
I'm gonna fight you on that point. I just hope you know that.
It's subconscious. Let it happen.
No.
Anyway, today we're going to be talking about one-shots. So, any hot takes off the bat? How do you kind of feel about one-shots?
Well, it would have been nice if we only needed one shot to get this working. Did
Yeah,
not.
we had a little bit of technical difficulties,
A
as we
little
will.
meaning a lot.
There's a lot of technical difficulties. We're not professional podcasters, not yet. We're working on it, but it seems to be working now. Everything seems to be stable, and if you end up hearing this, it means it did work. If you don't end up
Yeah,
hearing this, you'll never hear it again.
that's meta.
Just a little bit. Well, anyway, I wanted to talk about one shots a little bit because I'm planning one. Every year, I like to do a Halloween themed one shot. It's one of my favorite holidays, and I feel like you don't get to do enough spooky stuff in D&D. I feel like it's a little too much for a whole campaign. Looking at you, Curse of Strahd, it is just a little too much. But every now and then, come around Halloween time, I like to make a little one-shot adventure, and I have dastardly plans for my player characters that I wanted to discuss with you. But I also just wanted to discuss one-shots in general, because to me, one shots are like my favorite thing. I absolutely love one shots.
I do seem to recall a certain player breaking their greatsword against a broom.
That 100% happened. Speaking of Curse of Strahd, that one shot actually was Death House, which is kind of like the prologue, I
Intro?
guess, intro to Curse of Strahd. Yeah, there is an animated broom, and one of our players, we won't name them, they know who they are, failed so bad wrestling with this thing that they literally broke their sword. They hit the wall next to it so hard it snapped their sword in half.
It was bad.
We still talk about to this day. And that's kind of the great thing about one shots, right? So the reason I think I like them so much is, you know, in a campaign, there's this expectation you're going by week and you're building upon yourself and you take it a little more seriously. But the thing about one shots, at least for me, it's kind of, you can throw all that off the table. You can try your weirdest and wildest ideas. You can, hey, if I haven't played a monk in a while, let me play a monk. There's one I can think of specifically. I don't think you ran it, Ale. I think it was one of our other players who tried um, doing a one
Are
shot.
you talking about the one where you made Jack Black as a character?
100%. Yeah. So
That is
the
exactly the one I was thinking of too.
the concept was a warlock sorcerer bard multi-class, and it was about a guy named Jables or JB who sold his soul to the devil to play guitar super well, right? And his hex blade was an axe that doubled as a lute. And I will never forget the time he subdued a wyvern by singing to it.
Yeah.
That is
And
one of
what was it that I made? Didn't I just basically make a giant Canadian paladin?
you 100% did. The plated mountie.
Oh yeah,
But yeah,
it
that's
was
that's
great.
one of the things I will always remember. It's so much fun, and you don't get to do that in normal campaigns. You absolutely can. I don't want to discourage you from that, but it's not exactly the same.
Not only that, but I honestly believe that one shots are a pretty good way for a newer DM to kind of figure out things without being committed to a campaign.
That is true. Yeah. So a lot of the time when I have people who want to try out DMing, I kind of like give them some ground rules and I'll say, hey, try a one shot first. And if you want to keep going, then maybe turn it into a campaign, maybe think of something different. There's just a flexibility about it. I will say, though, a lot of times when I build a one shot, it often takes much more planning than actually running a campaign.
Yeah.
You've noticed that too?
Yep.
Yeah, because in a campaign, I'll have a vague kind of structure of what I want to do. I'll have some plot points, I'll have some monsters and NPCs ready, and then just kind of wherever the characters take it, I'll fill in that structure, and it goes from there. One shots, depending on how much time you have, usually not more than 6 hours. If you're lucky, most of the one shots I've run have been between 3 and 4. You kind of have to put a lot of structure into a little space. And that can be a good exercise for planning and executing encounters, right?
Oh yeah. It's like infinite possible potential. Itty bitty living space.
Yeah. So typically, when I'm building a one shot, I like to set up what's called a like a 5 room dungeon. And I know you watch Matt Koval, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. It's been a while since I watched, but I do watch him. I very much miss his campaign. I hope his players are doing well.
As do we all. Do you know what the 5 room dungeon is?
Uh, it is basically a dungeon that's designed to be solved within 5 rooms, isn't it?
Right, exactly. And I think that's kind of the quickest, easiest way to set up and execute a one shot. For the fifth and final room, I always like to have a boss battle. That's just my favorite thing to do. Uh, Players love that because, again, campaigns versus one shots, very few times have my players or myself fought a dragon in a campaign. It happens, with the game's Dungeons and Dragons. It does happen. But in a
Yes.
one shot, I've fought multiple dragons in multiple different one shots. They're just like a cool end boss. So I like putting a boss battle at the end, some puzzles or some encounter challenges in the middle, and then kind of like an entry puzzle, like how do we get past the guards, or the door is trapped, or something like that. And that's probably the most basic way to build a one shot. Kind of set up this 5 room dungeon, and you go through, and it check boxes off a list. Now that's not exactly how I approach it anymore. Um, in general, I guess it still is, but I'm excited to tell you. I have a couple of concepts for this one shot I'm doing, right? But this is something I wanted to do for a while, and I have one word for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oblex.
Oh no.
You remember what an Oblex is?
Yes. I generally don't pronounce it as that, but then again, I don't ever really pronounce anything correctly.
How do you pronounce it?
Ooblex.
Ublex. Ublex, I think, would be a double O, but I guess it's kind of like an ooze, so I can see that, right?
Yeah, that and it's really close to a copyrighted name brand, I think.
What's that?
Oobleck.
What's I think I've heard of that. Is that like cleaning solution?
I don't know. Again, I think it is also a slime of some kind. That marketable non-Newtonian fluid that you see various YouTubers and such like we can run across this, but if we stand, our feet sink in.
I'll have to look it up. That sounds fantastic. But as I was saying, for those who haven't seen the joys of the Oblex, you want to fill in the wonderful listeners as to what kind of monstrosity I shall be unleashing on my players.
You ever go to meet someone, they're real nice, and they send you on an errand, and you go and do that errand, and all of a sudden they're behind you, there's a dark mass in front of you, and it turns out the person was just the ooze's arm.
So the thing is, they're like oozes, but they are super intelligent, right? They're made by the squid faced gentlemen, the illithids, and basically they're super smart, and they want your brain because your brain is a tasty, tasty snack to them, right? And
And theoretically, that'd probably be how they get smarter, adding synaptic neurons to their mass, because I'm guessing an oobleck Oblex is what, however you said it, I've already forgotten.
I
They are Oblex is a distributed intelligence being where the entirety of it is its brain, kind of
right.
like an octopus.
Kind of picture it as sort of a collective or a hive mind based on the personalities that it has absorbed in the brains that it's consumed. And I believe it says that something like that sort of in the text, and that's why hold that notion, but I could be wrong. But yeah, the thing about it is when it comes in contact with a person, it has an ability where it can eat your memories. It just fucking eats your memories, dude. It goes into your brain and, oh, I forgot how to ride a bicycle. That childhood memory of dad pushing me down the sidewalk never happened. And the worst thing is, when it eats your memories, you get weaker. It starts out with a D4 penalty on attack rolls and saving throws. If it does it again, it's a D6. If it does it again, it's a D8. If it does it again, it's a D12, and this does go to a D20. I think I skipped 10, but it goes in order. Um,
Eh, which means after D20, it'd be a D100. That'd be weird. It's
yeah,
like, oh man, I got a minus 100 to attack.
I think you're just dead after that. You know, you're brain
I
dead.
don't know, it'd be kind of fun to see that grand level of failure.
There's nothing you can do. It's just nothing. But in
And could you
addition,
imagine having a plus 100 to attack?
it's a minus 100.
I know, but just imagine it going the other way. That'd be insane.
That's why
But
we don't do it.
I also had the fun thought where you're like you lost the memory of dad pushing you down the sidewalk. It's like imagine if it just ate the memory of bicycles. So it's not that your dad's pushing you down the sidewalk in a bicycle. He's literally shoving you down the sidewalk, and that seems super weird
You
and or
definitely,
mean.
you definitely remember your dad pushing you down the sidewalk, and you're rolling on something, but you just, for the life of you, you can't remember what it is.
That's when you learned you could float.
Yes. So the other thing, after it absorbs your memories, it can create what it calls a sulfurous simulacrum. So what Ale was saying earlier about getting a quest from a guy and then suddenly that guy's attached to the arm of a giant ooze, what it can do is it can send out a little tendril, right? As small as an inch around, up through the crack under a door, behind a curtain. You might not even see it. It's just a little tether attached to an ankle of an entire person that it has produced exactly to a T, identical to the person whose memories they've absorbed. A couple of differences being there is a small tether that is visible if you look hard enough. And if you
And
get
they smell like
close,
rotten eggs.
100, yeah, exactly. If you get close enough, you can smell sulfur. Close enough being 5 feet, I think they define. If you're standing 10 feet back, you might get a faint whiff if you have a very high perception. But unless you're right up on them, you probably won't smell it. The other thing as well is because they have all of the person's memories, they can mimic them exactly, although they might not have the same personality. And the
Right.
eyes themselves don't see. It attaches to the Oblex's blind sight, which it has. I think it's only 60 feet of blind sight, but it can move its tendril, its pseudopods, up to 120 feet. So really, it's got 180 feet of blind sight.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop my players in a forest. They're say we're in Fair Run, so say they're going from Neverwinter to Waterdeep, somewhere on the Sword Coast, and the main road's going to take too long, so they decide to cut through the forest.
See, that's another one that I also pronounce differently.
Forest?
No, Faerun. I pronounce it Faerun.
What did I say? Fair Run?
Yeah, Faerun. I do Faerun usually.
You know, they have pronunciation guides for a reason. I've never looked at them. You see words and you never question it, you know? So I would love your suggestions on this as well going through because, again, I have the concept, but I don't 100% know how I'm going to execute it. So uh, they're going to be traveling, right? And they take a shortcut through the forest. Night drops and mist rolls in, so they have to set up camp for the night. When they wake up in the morning, kind of like in Kursastrad or Barovia, they're not where they remember setting up camp. And a stranger comes in and basically leads them into the town somehow. I don't know if this is going to be an Oblex yet, or maybe it's going to be the ghost of a person that was killed as a result of the Oblex, because you know Halloween, spooky, all that. But
Possibly.
somehow they're going to lead them into the town. Say like, oh well, I venturing gear. I was wondering if there was maybe something you could help me out with. There's a town up over yonder there, and a lot of weird shit's been going on. Something, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Promise
And
them a
I think
reward of gold.
yeah, I think it's important to differentiate for that kind of a scale. You're not dealing with an Oblex, you're dealing with an Elder Oblex.
Yes, that is the plan, because this entire town is going to be run by this Oblex, right? You go into the bar, it's weirdly empty. The bartender's there, but there are no patrons, right? The bartender's the Oblex. You don't know that, but what the goal of the Oblex is going to be is to try to get you down into the mayor's house, because there's a cavern underneath, right? There's like a broken bit in the basement where you can go underground, and that's going to be the Oblex's lair, right? Where it's been luring people in, um, consuming their memories, taking their brains out. And I'm thinking, depending on what challenge rating I want to make it, what level the party's going to be, I might pair it with an Illithid. And if I do, I'm going to have the Illithid use the bodies to reincarnate them as, the brain zombie things that they do. Not actual zombies, because I don't want a cleric to just turn undead, but there's a distinction because they're piloted by little brain things. What are those things called? That
Oh,
they
intellect
pilot
devourers.
intellect devourers. Yes, of course. Right. So little brains with legs, and they pilot you like a Gundam suit. So depending on how high I want to make the CR, it's either just going to
I
be the
mean,
Oblex, or it's going to be an Oblex plus everyone who used to be town folk, piloted by intellect devourers.
if if you want to get really, really introspective, all people are just brains that pilot their body like a Gundam suit.
You got me there. They're
We
less
pilot a
nefarious,
bone
though.
mech surrounded by meat armor, which is also part of the infrastructure.
Yeah, that's true.
And if
Again,
you want to get real crazy with it, all a person is a highly advanced jellyfish that has learned to walk on land and maintain its own personal saltwater aquarium.
that's true. Pretty much. I,
Yeah.
I won't get highly technical about it because that's going to keep me up at night. But yeah, so depending on how hard I want to make it. So that's kind of the final boss. And then also the other thing I like to do is I don't give my character magic weapons when I start a one shot, because I don't let them pick them themselves. Because they're gonna ask, hey, what's this? And they're gonna check with me and all that. And I kind of like to lead them to an idea of what's going with it. So they're gonna find a couple of things on the way, or maybe the guy in the beginning will know where to find a couple of things that's gonna hint at some helpful things with the encounter. So for example, in the last one shot I ran, they were doing a heist on an underground casino, and they had to break into the vault, and the final boss of the vault was a dragon, because dragons protect hordes. So they were given some magic items to choose from their employer, and I passed around cards with magic items on it the majority of the magic items had some sort of tell that there was going to be a dragon, right? So I did specifically like a dragon slayer lance, specifically like dragon armor, stuff like that. And I kind of like that foreshadowing in the beginning, you know?
Mm. But did they get the most amazing and greatest of all magic items?
The cloak of billowing.
Yes.
Yes, always. I always include it because it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
You want to spend your bonus action to billow your cloak? Of course you do. What else are you doing with that bonus action? Not
I
billowing
mean,
your cloak? Not worth it.
that's what Darth Vader did at like several points throughout Rogue One. It's like he's standing on a TIE fighter in space. There shouldn't be any wind to billow his cloak. His cloak is billowing because he's making it billow.
Just using his force to make it billow.
Yeah. It's like that's the cover up for the fact that they forgot. But then again, it's like if you go into whole Anakin thing, he's a showman. I mean, all things improve when you become James Earl Jones.
So, any idea that you want to throw into that? So, the basic concept: they're dropped in a forest, they're led into town. Every person they meet in town, so like the bartender, the potion shop, whatever, is actually the Oblex. They're going to be led into the mayor's mansion, and then in the mayor's mansion, I might have a couple more characters that are the Oblex, like the like a maid or a butler or something. And then I'm probably going to have like puzzles and traps, maybe a journal that'll kind of like hint at what's around there. And then I was also wanting to do a couple of spooks, right? So like maybe one of the player characters gets touched, and then have them do like a wisdom save or something. And if they fail, the Oblex got a little bit of their memory and taunt them with the ghosts of their past, or like do a mocking voice. I don't know. I kind of want you. Obviously, you want to fuck with your players,
True.
especially if you're
And I
doing
mean, that's a great way, especially if they don't have like magic weapons or magic items at the start of this.
yeah,
You can use like the actual monster ghosts
right,
because their main thing is possessing people. And I'm pretty sure I also got this from Matt Covell. That is a great way to get information that your players wouldn't normally get to them. So it could be the ghost of someone that had their memories almost completely destroyed.
yeah, that would be a fun interaction.
Yeah, because then
Okay,
they're just possessing a player. They're getting this interaction from someone that is very confused and remembers bits and pieces of things and knows that something's not right.
right. I like that a lot. Actually, that is definitely something I can work with. But yeah, so that's my basic idea. What do you think?
Hmm.
Yeah, I have other concepts too. I have one that's much more wholesome, right? Have you heard about Liar's Day? So Liar's Day is one of the closest equivalents to Halloween in D&D. There's Trolltide in Waterdeep, which is kids dressed up in masks demanding candy. But everything else kind of falls a little short, and it celebrates like a battle that was won against the trolls.
Trolls, bridges, demanding tolls, troll toll.
Pretty much. And that's why you have to carry candy with you. Otherwise, they'll fuck up your shop or your house or whatever.
I wonder if, in the D&D universes, if they have their own version of candy corn, and if it's just as bad there as it is here.
You know it is. Well, they have magic there, so maybe not, but it probably
Yeah,
is.
but I mean, you watch an episode of SpongeBob, and it's like, yeah, you made all this stuff with magic. It looks real good. Tastes awful.
That's true.
Magic does not a good cook make.
Yeah, that's why I like the idea of magic having taste. I did that recently in the game I was running for you guys, where Elias Winterspell conjured the lollipop, and someone was like, "Oh, what's it taste like?" And
God,
he's like, "Earthy," because
the high elf.
Yeah, conjuration magic tastes earthy. I just, yes, the high elf. I just like that idea, because it's not nothing. It came from something.
Evocation probably tastes either like cinnamon or mint.
I bet evocation tastes like strawberries.
Uh, mm,
Or at least that's what I'm going to tell my foes before I hit them with a fireball.
right. The fireball, I would imagine, tastes like cinnamon, mainly because of my extensive experience with fireball whiskey.
Fair enough.
And, you get things like that sudden shock. That's what gives me mint, which is just a cold version of spicy.
Right.
So,
Well,
like, evocation is spicy, but it is both the hot kind of spicy and the cold kind of spicy.
I would like to note if you use the material components for fireball, I believe you use bat guano.
Yeah. It is literally, if you look at it, it's a rudimentary recipe for gunpowder.
That's probably what it tastes like.
Because bat guano is an explosive.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding about that.
Well, I love the idea that, yeah, you're casting fireball, but really what you're doing is you're throwing shit at people.
You are. And it's explosive diarrhea.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And since fireball is a wizard's favorite spell, you're basically saying that all wizards have IBS.
Yep. 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 So
Irritable blasting syndrome.
anyway, let's get back to it. So, whereas Trolltide is kids dressing up, demanding candy, or they'll destroy stuff, Liar's Day is something more in line with Halloween. It is for the Lady of the Mist, Lyra, the goddess of liars, and the Lord of the Shadows, Mask, right? The god of thieves. And basically, I think it might just be Waterdeep, but it might be all cities in Faerun. They to ward them off and make sure that there's not an influx of liars and thieves. They have this day where they praise the Lady of the Mist and the Lord of Shadows by dressing up in a costume or putting a glamour illusion up, and they carve pumpkins with faces on them, and they put a candle inside the pumpkin, and the candle represents the person's inner glow, like the truth in their lie, the soul of the person, right? And the actual person's out there in a costume raising all sorts of hell. And there is a tradition of giving candy as well. I'd have to look at the wiki or something. I don't remember how it comes up. I think it's something like pickpocketing was so rampant that a lot of people would just end up carrying candy in their pockets because they were going to get pickpocketed anyway, or scraps of paper or something like that. But
So it's pretty much a pickpocket your way through the evening, see what you get.
pretty much, yeah. So it's like Halloween, except instead of going door to door, you're just swiping candy off people.
Yeah. The more candy you get, the sneakier you are.
Right. So I also have this idea for the one shot because I love the idea of an Oblex, but maybe I wanted to do something more festive, more in line with the actual season. And I was thinking I might do something with Liar's Day and have it like some mystical person is stealing all of the pumpkins and they're going to extinguish the inner glow, which is going to cause some other thing to happen. I don't know. It was an idea I was
Or
toying with.
or you can go the classic route, and at the end of it, we have to fight the Great Pumpkin.
Charlie Brown's an
We
NPC.
we also have to fight him.
Snoopy's the real BBEG.
No, it'd be Linus, because, well, Linus worships the Great Pumpkin.
That's true. You're right. No, you're right. I'd have to make a Linus NPC, and
Yeah,
he's the real.
Linus would be our foe. Charlie Brown doesn't much care for the Great Pumpkin, so he might help us. More than likely, he's just going to be that NPC that does nothing and complains.
I love it. I might actually run that. Maybe not this year, but yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
It's the Great Dungeon, Charlie Brown.
Holy fuck, yes. The great dungeon Charlie Brown. Oh shit. Someone write that, print it, put it on DM's Guild. Oh man, that's good. Speaking of that, I did sometimes I'll look at like DM's Guild stuff for some inspiration, kind of see what ideas might flow, that kind of thing. And I saw one that would actually be really good as well. And I want to quote the guy. I think first name is Dale, last name starts with a Z. But he had this one shot called Pigsaw, right? And Pigsaw is a play on Jigsaw because the way he runs it is your players wake up in a dungeon without any of their stuff, and a voice comes over a rune explaining that they're all chained to the floor and water's going to start rising and they got to figure out how to get out of it, which I love. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to this other dungeon idea I had. And this would be great for a one shot. Again, waking up in a dark room that smells very you know, damp, humid. It's very humid, and all the walls, floor, ceiling, everything is essentially like kind of fleshy.
Oh,
I haven't thought much about it, but the whole idea is
is it a mimic?
basically you're working through this dungeon, and then you come to find out the dungeon is a dragon.
Oh shit! The dungeon is a dragon.
Yeah, it's just like you're in a titanically huge dragon, and it itself is the dungeon.
That would be cool. What's it called? The Great Dragon, the Dragon Supreme. What are those things called?
Uh, Great worms, but it would be bigger than that. I simply think this would just be called a dungeon dragon.
It would be bigger than that, or your players were shrunk down.
Yeah, it could. You could very well get a DM. I shrunk the players.
That could be a fun scenario. And then you could do Anatomy Park cameo. Some crazy wizard is trying to open an amusement park inside of a dragon.
Okay, Rick Sanchez is in D&D lore. He has his own thing.
Yes, I know. They have their own book. There's a whole module of Rick and Morty D&D, and one of my favorite things about that is Jerry's in it, and I think Jerry plays a wizard, right? But
Oh,
regardless, well, his intelligence is much higher as a wizard. So there's this point where he says something like really eloquent, and they all look at him, and he's like, "What? No, I have good thoughts and ideas. Just most of the time, I don't know how to express it." With this character with higher intelligence, I'm able to voice my opinions, and he's actually like becomes a good leader. It's hilarious. You should check it out.
I think I will. I always had this feeling that, it's Rick and Morty. It's probably highly cynical.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's not just the module. I think there's a comic of it as well, which is what I was referencing.
Oh, mm, yeah. I think most things Rick and Morty are quite cynical. Funny because they're cynical, but cynical.
Right, right. I don't want to get too deep into Rick and Morty because the D&D podcast. I don't want anyone accusing us
That
of demanding
I
Szechuan at a McDonald's.
no. If you're gonna demand anything, demand MacGuffins from your local orc.
Need more MacGuffins.
Hey, you gave me proficiency at eating MacGuffins.
You earned it. Uh, for all the listeners out there, MacGuffins, uh, well, first is a literary term that means some object of desire that advances the plot. That is not a direct definition. That is my best definition. But basically, uh, the ring of power or something that you're searching for, Excalibur, all of these items that are plot related that without the context of the story really bear no meaning, and even sometimes within it bear no meaning. It's just something to get someone to the next place. So I had a game where I had them searching for all sorts of things to make a potion, and the potion was something that was going to get made, but I kind of needed them to progress a little, do more story adventures first, kind of have more adventures. So I gave them this whole list that they had to collect, and one of the items was literally a MacGuffin. And when they asked what the MacGuffin was, well, it's an orcish muffin. One, how do you find an orcish muffin? Well, you have to find an orcish baker. And orcish bakers, well, they don't have exactly the same taste as human bakers, or elven bakers, or dwarvish bakers. Orcish bakers, they have strong stomachs, and uh, basically anything will go in a MacGuffin.
Yeah, I believe my good old dragon lad there ended up with a rock at some point, but I never failed the con save you made us roll to eat a MacGuffin. So I just
Always
got better
succeeded.
and better at eating these MacGuffins
You just
to the
got
point
used to
where
it.
my character just enjoyed them.
You started to enjoy MacGuffins. Yeah, I think the first one I gave you had literally like nails in it. One had rat poison, but every time you rolled that MacGuffin check, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is fine." Never puked, never got sick, nothing.
Yeah, at some point, everyone else got sick.
The first time I think everyone else got sick, you're like, "Oh, this is fine." I don't know, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, you're all weak.
Well, and it's funny because it's not like you were a barbarian or a paladin;
No,
you
I
were a
was a
ranger.
ranger.
So you didn't have a strong constitution, but every time MacGuffins came up,
Yeah, it's like, that was my role. And believe me, I have no good luck in any other role except MacGuffins, especially.
it became a delicacy. And my favorite thing is that was a throwaway joke reference. But right, you and the other players started to seek out MacGuffins. Every town you went to, you would try to find an orc, see if you knew a baker, and find MacGuffins.
Oh my god. You know what that just made me remember? The
What's
other
that?
thing that became our throwaway joke, the Cheesecake Phylactery.
That's a solid joke. I don't know about that.
Because then that made us go into this whole thing of like a collective of baker liches.
Oh yeah, Cheesecake Phylactery. Well, anyway, we've drifted a little bit far from the topic of one shots. Do you have something that'll round us back there? Is there something you wanted to talk about or mention?
Well, I don't like thinking about it, but my first one shot was horrible. I'm not particularly good at running them.
Oh, it was okay. And if I recall, that was the first game you ever ran, not just your first one shot.
Yes, it was. I have not gotten much better, other than learning
Nah,
to stop planning things and stop caring as much.
that's fair. So I think the biggest issue was you had a good idea, but didn't know how to
No
execute
idea
it.
how to implement it.
Right. So, if I remember correctly, it was this big war that was taking place in the past, and you also something I probably would never do in a one shot is you had a predetermined outcome because you were trying to make it like a prequel to something, right?
Yeah,
So you're like, oh well, you guys actually have to lose, right?
or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. Mostly because I've been trying to forget it. Because I did not do good.
Yeah. So a couple of bad check marks there is a lot of free time before the thing actually started. We were just kind of like poking around a castle for no real good reason, just
Yep.
padding
Oh
time.
god.
Uh,
Oh, I hate remembering this.
well, we're gonna go through it. I'm sorry. You've learned
Alright.
from it. Well, the other thing too is when we got out there, it was like, okay, so this is a war, and there's this many troops approaching, which just
Right.
as a DM, do not do that to yourself. If it,
Yeah. It's
years of DMing experience, I would not run a war game like that unless I was really prepared with like troops and like battle plans, and I would
Yeah,
set them up as
like
different like armadas and have like groups move. But yeah, we were trying to run like single player combat against an army.
right. And I actually ran into one of the campaigns that I'm trying to consistently run, but work schedules and all that makes it kind of a
Of
pain.
course, of course.
And there was a point where it's like, there's going to be this multi thing between goblins and wolves and the players, and it's like, screw it, too much work. They're illusions. You guys are going to fight something else.
Love
And
it.
then they had to figure out that they're illusions so they could stop avoiding them.
I think that's a much better way to do it, honestly, because your
Yeah.
players, and you can absolutely run a campaign. I'm just saying, be prepared. Ale here, he had never run a game before, never run a combat before, and was just like, yeah, we're gonna have 300 goblins come in, and I said, excuse me, you know, um,
Yep. I have
and
learned from that. I am still deeply ashamed.
even then he was like, oh, it's fine. They're very weak. You'll kill them in one hit. I was like,
Oh
that's
no,
great,
no, no,
but we're
no!
level
I have
five.
learned since what goblins can do. Because my God, I have one player that keeps dying to goblins.
What level are they?
Right now, 3.
Well, that shouldn't be happening, but it can.
I keep rolling
Goblins are tougher than you think.
really well against him specifically with goblins. The guy's got an AC of 20.
Wow. Well, and the other thing a lot of people don't realize, especially like at level one, goblins have an armor class of 15, right? So with no modifiers, you have a 1 in 4 chance of hitting a goblin. And even with
Yeah,
modifiers, your chance is less than half, right? Meanwhile, they're probably going to be able to hit you.
yeah,
So, take your chances there. Try to balance accordingly. I always try to have a similar number of enemies to players, because something you'll learn running combats is that it's never so much about CR or how challenging a specific opponent is. It's about action economy. Just at the end of the day, if there are 300 goblins, they will take down your party just because there's
yes.
so much more of them, you know? So that's kind of the basic lesson there. So what else happened after that? A dragon rolled in at one point, and I think we defeated the dragon. But you were like, no, you guys have to lose. So you sent out a
I
stronger, bigger
I don't
dragon.
remember anything past the dragon at all. Like,
You sent out a stronger, bigger dragon.
I don't. Yeah, again, I have purged this from memory simply because I did so horribly. And I was like, oh God.
Well, I'm glad you didn't give up, because I think you're a fine DM now. And everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yes. It's
Oh,
just uh I feel very much shame for that.
no, it's totally okay. And it was a lot of fun. There were a couple moments where I was like, what the hell is going on? But had a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, that's why we play the game. You know,
All I can say is my play style has only gotten stranger. A lot more body horror.
I can tell. Yeah, just something, something about the dungeon that is a dragon.
I don't know why it is, but almost everything I do, it's like, huh, that's a lot of body horror.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Well, I mean, to each their own, though. Like, if you want to run a body horror campaign or one shot, do it.
I mean, I kind of am. It's got body horror, it's got cosmic horror, it's just got creepy, like just creepy stuff. I have 2 or 3 different deities devoted specifically to pain, torture, and torment.
Well, I mean, that's the bare minimum. You got to cover that.
Yeah.
There's something I will never forget, and that's you ever see the movie Cabin in the Woods?
No.
Oh, good movie. You should see it. It's like a meta criticism on horror movies in general. But there's one point where there's a lot of objects in the cabin they can interact with that will summon creatures to kill. Spoilers for Cabin in the Woods, by the way. It's like a 10-year-old movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm not apologetic, but I will be talking about it for the next minute or so. Um, so, in this cabin in the woods, there's a lot of objects that will trigger some kind of monster or horror thing to attack them, right? And it's not the one that they pick up, but there is like a spike ball of sorts. And then later, after the plot is kind of revealed, and they go down deeper into the cabin because it turns out to be connected to a facility that would release these things. Uh, there is a pinhead esque Hellraiser tortured looking guy, right?
Oh no, that straight up is Pinhead.
No, no, it's not. Because if you watch the credits, he is credited. Do you know what this man's name is?
No, actually, I
His
don't because I've
name
never seen the movie.
is Lord Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain. They credited him. They credited him as Lord Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain.
Oh my god, that makes me think about that one really stupid one, the Edgelord guy.
Lord Entropy.
Oh no. I hate Lord Entropy.
Oh shit, Lord Entropy. Anytime anything bad happens, Lord Entropy might have been involved. He's so evil and brooding.
He's the worst. And I don't mean that as in he is a evil, horrible thing. I mean he just is awful.
Lord Entropy. Oh my god. That's a
Like
throwback.
I'm an absurd guy. Even that was too much.
Let me see if I can find something on Lord Entropy. Hold on.
Oh god.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. So it's from the tabletop RPG Nobilis. I'm not going to give you a whole rundown on Nobilis. If you're interested in that, you could look it up because it's a little strange compared to some of the other stuff. Lord Entropy, also known as the Darkest Lord, and we can pause on that for a second. The Darkest
Eh,
Lord,
he is a true douchebag.
the true God, the Darkest Lord.
You know what's darker than he is? A glass of chocolate milk that's got 2 drips of chocolate.
Yeah.
For anyone trying to imagine what this Lord Entropy looks like, imagine the whitest white boy and the saddest sad boy, and there you go. He is the ultimate white boy emo that thinks he's so sad and so cool, and his parents probably buy everything for him.
Okay. Here's a different one. Nobilis,
Like,
Lord Entropy,
it's bad.
the Darkest Lord, leader of the Council of Four, ruler of Earth. The Darkest Lord is the most dangerous force and the most dangerous creature on or near the Earth. I like how it's on or near the Earth. Like, he might be in outer space. We don't know, but he's still the greatest threat. He has
Yeah, unless
taken
he goes, away from near Earth. Then they go to Mars and he's beaten by a poodle.
Martian Poodle.
Martian poodle.
He has taken or been given near total dominion over the Earth and its inhabitants. His actions and choices are respected by the other imperators. Only the combined decision of the 3 other members of the council may gainsay him. The touch of Lord Entropy is corruption, and so dark have been his deeds that his hands drip forever with blood. That is the sentence. The touch of Lord Entropy is corruption, and so dark have been his deeds that his hands drip forever with blood.
Great metaphor, really stupid to make a real thing.
Oh my god. Oh, okay.
I know I've said it a lot. I really hate Lord Entropy. Just everything about him.
Well, there's another part about like him playing basketball or something. I remember. Hold on.
It's just the dumbest shit. It sounds like someone trying to impress a girl by showing them how edgy they are, and all it does is make you look like a bigger loser.
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of amazing though. It's almost so bad it's good, but it's
It
not.
it's close, but it still just comes off as horribly pathetic. Honestly, it's like I whoever made Lord Entropy, please keep making stuff. Just don't make Lord Entropy again. He's awful. Just no.
Yes. I mean no. Yes, no. You know.
Yes.
Anyway,
And I'm sorry if that was your magnum opus. It's awful.
D&D one shots. They're cool. I like them.
Yes, they're a great way to learn how to DM, try different stuff that you didn't think you could do before, and sometimes it's like a little 4-hour therapy session.
Yeah. Well, and it's also good. I think from a player perspective as well to like step away from the campaign every once in a while, try something different, try out a class you have been thinking
Get
about.
your murder hobo out.
Get your murder hobo out. Exactly.
Because
It's
let's be honest, if you're not in a campaign, you are literally just a murder hobo at that point. Because you're not worrying about where you're going to stay. You're not really worrying about what happens after. You're here for this one thing, and then you're gone.
that's kind of the one down. There might be multiple downsides, but one of the things I don't like about one shots, I know blaspheme in this episode, is that it's hard to kind of like come up with a call to adventure. It's hard to incentivize the players with gold because it's not going to mean anything tomorrow. It's not like they're going to come back with all their gold that they earned or their magic weapons or anything like that.
And that's why you make it personal.
Well, if they're characters that they just made out of the blue, it's hard to make
Oh,
it
I don't
personal.
mean to the characters. I mean, you make it personally insulting to the player. To where
Uh,
it's
I don't
not
know.
just the character, it's the DM versus the players just for that one shot.
I don't know about that one, but yeah. So, well, other than personally insulting your players, was there something else you can think of that might incentivize players to kind of, answer the call to adventure?
I mean, I guess it kind of just depends on the player itself.
Yeah,
Some players just really like combat. It's like, yeah, you get fight stuff.
that's true. Well,
Uh,
and
some some people, even for that short little bit, they get really into their character and they're there for the story element of it.
right. Well, and I feel like most of the time for the actual player, the incentive to play a one shot is kind of the one shot itself. We all come to the table with an understanding that, hey, if a random dude at the tavern says, hey, can you go do this thing for me? You're going to do it because you're playing a one shot and this is the one singular plot hook that the DM gave you. But at the same time, it feels super flimsy. And I kind of like, having a good reason for my players to do something.
Yeah, reason one being their choice is taken out of the matter. You have to survive this.
Yeah. The same guy who did the pig saw one, he did a dusk till dawn one. He called it Burdusk till dawn, named after the town Burdusk that he made up. And he basically does you're in a tavern and vampires just start breaking in. And you gotta survive the night, fight off the vampires. Then you find like a vampire lord and you kill him. But I thought that was a neat concept too. It's kind of like a tower defense one shot.
Kind of like the movie Legion.
Yes. Well, it's kind of exactly like the movie Dusk Till Dawn, which the movie Legion was kind of like. Have you seen Dusk Till Dawn?
No.
All right. Well, we're not going to do light spoilers for Dusk Till Dawn because I gave it away. There's a tavern and you're attacked by vampires and you have to survive the night.
Oh, yeah. I think I've heard about that movie? Wasn't it like a completely different movie until the end, and then the end is where they introduce the vampires?
No, I maybe that's something different.
It's like at
Because
a Mexican bar, right?
no, it is. It's in a Mexican bar, a bar in Mexico, not a Mexican bar. I will clarify. There's a slight difference.
It, I guess. I mean, if it's a bar in Mexico, it is quite literally a Mexican bar.
No, you're right. I don't know why I said that. It's a bar in Mexico. Uh,
Yeah,
it's a
a
Mexican
bar in
bar in
Mexico is a
Mexico.
Mexican bar.
Yep. No, you're right. Anyway, yeah. So the movie does start out like that. They go to this bar, but it's not like at the end of the movie that you find out vampires. It's almost immediately, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's directed by like Guillermo del Toro.
So it's weird, and there's feet.
Is that a thing that Guillermo del Toro does?
Yes, there's like this whole thing with him and feet.
I did not know that. I haven't played Death Stranding. I don't know.
I haven't played it either. Again, this is just something that keeps coming up in things I see about him is
Gotcha.
his weird obsession with feet.
You know, this is probably gonna get cut too.
Probably.
Oh shit! All right. Is there anything else about one shots you want to talk about? Can we bring it back at all? Can we save this topic?
Save it. There is no saving us. We had our one shot to save things and we wasted it.
God damn it! Well, have you run or played a one shot recently?
Not recently, but I think a mutual friend of ours said that he's planning on doing one. Hasn't told me any details about it, but I'm down for playing.
Okay, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Be nice to
Yeah.
get an invite, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, I haven't heard from him either.
Yep. It's just like, is this happening? Come on. I love playing D&D. I will literally dive into 4 campaigns at once. I don't care.
That's true. That's true.
God, I love D&D.
It's good, solid game. 9 out of 10.
Yes. The 10th one was an elephant. They
That's right.
never agree with anything.
That's right. So I don't even know how to bring it back. I kind of want to bring it back to what my concept was, but I feel like that's way too far in the past now. I can't bring it back to Dusk Till Dawn. Obviously, I can't.
Yeah,
Where
I mean, that is kind of the good and bad thing about one shots is they can, like most other things of D&D, be literally anything. It's hard to pin them down to one thing, other than the fact that it's a one shot.
right that it's going to be something y'all do together um, in one session, and that's kind of also the beauty of it. I've run heists, I've fought dragons. We're going to fight this Oblek and see what happens. Oblex, you made me do it. We're going to fight this Oblex and see what happens. Do a little spooky Halloween fun. Obviously people run like Christmas adventures. I love that. I love holiday themed one shots. I don't know why, but that's my jam.
I mean, because out of all the holidays, the Halloween one is the one best suited to work with D&D.
Yeah. When it feels like a special event too.
Right. Because it gives people a reason to be creepy. You've already got an entire sect of things just called undead, and if that's not Halloween, I don't know what is.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could do something really traditional and just have like a Night of the Living Dead kind of thing and
Yeah,
have them fight an army of zombies. Never mind.
get to the necromancer at the end.
Yeah, but the issue with that is my players know it's a Halloween themed one shot, and I can almost guarantee they're going to prep for something like that. I literally had one say, "I'm going to be a necromancer." There's no necromancer in it, but they said, "I don't know what your big bad evil guy is going to be, but I'm going to play a necromancer, and if it's a necromancer, I'm going to out necromancer that necromancer." It's like, Okay, you have fun.
It just, he becomes the big bad evil guy because this level of necromancy is pathetic.
Pretty much.
And let's be honest, with Christmas theme one shots, you only have two directions you can go. You're either gonna fight Santa, or it's Nightmare Before Christmas in D&D form,
Yeah, fighting
which
Santa would be
would
fun too.
also probably have you fighting Santa.
Yeah, but you don't actually fight. Yeah, well, there's lots of stuff you can do. Don't put it in such a narrow box. I don't know. Either way,
I
it's
mean,
gonna be fun.
yeah. Thanksgiving would probably have something to do with fighting a turkey of some sort.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving, I would probably do like some rogue wizard experiment has mutated all of the turkeys, and they've turned into giant
Oh yeah.
wild beasts. And I'd probably have a giant turkey
Well,
attack the town like Godzilla.
well,
Yeah,
he made the Turkrask.
the Tarrasque. Oh yeah, okay, that would be amazing.
It's just a Tarrasque turkey.
Just a Tarrasque with a turkey head, giblets hanging down.
Yes. The whole point of it is to defeat this thing and have the ultimate Thanksgiving feast.
Yes, it's a legendary creature that's been talked about in myths, and if you can kill it and serve it for this Thanksgiving adjacent nondescript holiday, your crops will be blessed forever or some bullshit. Yes,
Very long time, and its breath weapon is gravy.
that's so good. That is like that's just it's off the walls, but I love it. I love it. You can definitely do that. It comes in, it
Arbor Day,
starts
you fight
breathing gravy
trees.
on everyone. Well, you can
Yeah,
actually do that. Like for Arbor Day, you could do like an angry dryad or something, getting revenge on the population of a town that's encroaching on the forest, and everyone
yeah,
will learn a
fight
lesson
tree
about
ants.
nature or some bullshit. Yeah, exactly. What other holidays can we do?
Let's see.
You do
Um,
Valentine's Day. Everyone would just be bards.
I would either that or you fight Cupid.
I like the bard idea better. Uh, let's
What do
see
you
what
think
else.
Cupid is?
Cupid. Well, they have angels in D&D, and they're not called angels. They're called like seraphs or something.
Yeah, and technically that wouldn't even classify what Cupid is. Cupid is generally depicted as a cherubim.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that'd be a real long fight though.
Yeah,
I think
Valentine's Day is hard.
I think probably instead of fighting the actual Cupid, what you have is someone who's concocted a love potion, and he accidentally got it in the town's water supply.
Oh god.
And then you have to solve the mystery of the very affectionate townsfolk.
Oh, that's great. And the best part is your players should only be bards.
Yes, it's a requirement.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I just had it and now it's gone.
Give me another holiday. This is fun.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, okay. I don't want to take the easy route, right? I don't want to just say fight leprechauns. What I'm going
Oh,
to
I
say
wasn't thinking
instead,
that at all. St. Patrick's Day. You're gonna do it like St. Patrick. You're gonna be fighting snakes.
okay, that's a way to
All
take it.
kinds of snakes.
Rid the snakes
'Cause,
from Ireland.
yes, that's what St. Patrick did.
They're hurting the potatoes, boy. I
Yes.
apologize to anyone who's actually Irish and found that accent offensive. We're doing
It
it
wasn't
for
so much
fun.
offensive as it was just bad.
It's a bit, well, yeah, bad and offensive are synonymous. If I did a good Irish accent, it wouldn't be offensive.
Yeah, but I mean, it is possible to be so bad at something, it's not offensive. It's just please stop. You're embarrassing yourself.
That's true. So you would fight snakes, right? What else would you do? What if the snakes are infesting a brewery and you
That could
have to
work.
save the brewery from snakes and your reward is free beer for life?
Eh, I don't know, maybe free beer for a week.
Yeah, that's a weak
That's
one.
more believable. And free
Yeah,
beer for a week is a lot, especially if you're challenging heavy drinkers. Which,
especially if
let's be
you're a
honest,
D&D
you're an
adventuring party.
adventurer.
Yep. I might have to circle back on that one, but for now, that's the best we got. Let me try another holiday. How do you feel about Easter? Okay,
Yeah,
elaborate. What about the Easter Bunny?
well, I mean, you know the route fighting, the Easter bunny, stuff like that. It's like an evil rabbit-like creature that's hidden these sort of things that are in the shape of eggs. So you're basically going around trying to find this stuff that could, make everything potentially worse. They're hidden like eggs, and you have to find them. There you go. You
I
got an
think
Easter egg
that
hunt, literally.
that's a pretty good idea, kind of like a scavenger hunt for the actual bulk of the one shot. That's pretty good. You could take the South Park route, right? And the Easter Bunny is summoned by the Hair Club for Men.
Funny, but hares and rabbits are not even close to the same species.
Really?
Yeah, like they look very similar. Their dimorphism way different.
I had no idea.
They
Learn something new
cannot
every day.
crossbreed.
Everyone, this is now a biology podcast where we're solely going to be discussing the difference between hares and rabbits.
I know a lot of useless information that I generally forget a couple minutes after I say it.
I do too. I do too. Well, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Again, at this point, we're still fairly new. We don't have any questions coming in. Uh, so that is something we'd like to do in the future. If you want to go ahead and submit questions, you can find us on Twitter at Tarrasque MA, or anywhere you're hearing the podcast. You can go ahead and leave a like or a review. Was there anything else you wanted to cover in closing, Al?
Well, I did say I was going to try and not make this a bit, but I honestly did forget about the displacer bees again.
Oh no. Well, we'll talk about that next time. Okay.
Okay, please don't let me forget again. I don't want to keep forgetting about the bees.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. We'll see everyone in the next one.
All right, take care, everybody.
Good night.